Imagine being the favorite child in your family and telling everyone about it. Yes, this ends badly. Joseph grew up in a large household, many brothers, one father, and a lot of quiet competition that nobody openly discussed, but everyone clearly felt. Meals were shared, work was shared, attention was not. Because Jacob made one thing very clear: Joseph was his favorite. He didn't whisper it. He didn't balance it out later. He didn't pretend to rotate affection. Joseph stood out. In modern terms, it was like a father publicly praising one child in front of the others, every single day. At breakfast, at dinner, in front of guests, repeatedly. Look how responsible he is. Look how special he is. Why can't you all be more like him? Nothing builds sibling unity quite like that. Then Jacob decided to turn favoritism into a physical object. He gave Joseph a special robe. Distinctive, expensive, impossible to miss. Joseph received a robe. The brothers received resentment. Because a uniform of favoritism never sits well in a group setting. Joseph wore it. The brothers noticed it. And every glance at that robe quietly reinforced what they already knew. Now, at this point, the situation was uncomfortable but manageable. Then, Joseph started having dreams, not confusing dreams, not symbolic dreams that needed interpretation, very clear dreams, dreams where his brothers bowed down to him, dreams where even his parents lowered themselves. These dreams came with an obvious message, and Joseph made a bold choice regarding how to handle it. He shared them, immediately, with the brothers, all of them. This was not strategic communication. This was confidence without caution. Diplomacy was definitely not his strength. It was like saying, "Hey everyone, just wanted to let you know that one day you'll all answer to me." Then smiling and waiting for applause. The reaction was not applause. The room went quiet. Not angry quiet. Dangerous quiet. The kind of silence where nothing is resolved, but everything is remembered. And Joseph didn't stop there. More dreams followed. More certainty. More unfiltered honesty. Each story stacked on top of the last, slowly pushing patience past its limit. Because favoritism, when combined with public confidence, has consequences. And when resentment isn't addressed, it doesn't fade away. It organizes. And that was the moment something shifted. No arguments, no shouting, no dramatic confrontation. Just a shared look between brothers that said the same thing. Enough. And yes, this could have been avoided. Because that was the moment the brothers decided that Joseph had officially crossed the line. And from there, nothing in this family would ever be simple again. The problem with trusting too much is forgetting that not everyone is happy about your success. Joseph didn't see the danger coming. He was young, confident, still wearing the robe. One day his brothers saw him approaching alone. No father, no witnesses, just Joseph walking toward them, completely unaware that the mood had already shifted. The atmosphere changed instantly. In modern terms, it was like a family group chat, right after someone overshares. One message too many and suddenly everyone goes quiet. Not because they're busy, because they're thinking. The brothers looked at each other. This was the moment. The first idea was extreme. They talked about killing him. Not yelling, not fighting, just discussing it, casually. Fortunately, someone suggested a slightly less permanent option: selling him. Because if you're going to betray someone, you might as well make a profit. Entrepreneurship, but morally questionable. They grabbed Joseph. No dramatic speech, no long explanation. Before he could process what was happening, they threw him into a pit. No water, no ladder, just darkness. Joseph went from favorite son to trapped problem very quickly. And while he was there wondering how this escalated so fast, the brothers noticed a group of traders passing by. Another idea formed, a better one, economically speaking. They pulled Joseph out of the pit. For a brief moment, it probably felt like things were improving. They were not. Joseph was sold as a slave. Just like that. He left his family, his home, his language, and his entire life behind in one transaction. No goodbye, no closure, no explanation to anyone who would miss him. One minute he was the favored son. The next he was cargo. It's like going to work thinking you're about to get promoted, and ending the day unemployed, blocked, and escorted out of the building. The brothers went home afterward. They told a story. They showed evidence, they played their roles, and life continued. For them. For Joseph, everything had changed. He was taken to another country, another culture, another system. Egypt. A place that didn't care about dreams, favoritism, or family drama. All that mattered now was survival. And the irony was brutal. The dreams Joseph had talked about so confidently, they felt very far away now. The robe was gone. The status was gone. The safety was gone. What remained was uncertainty. And this is the part of the story where most people would expect things to stabilize. A lesson learned, a slow recovery, a pause. But that's not how this story works. Because when it feels like things couldn't possibly get worse, they do. Egypt changed everything. New land, new language, new rules. Joseph arrived with nothing except a reputation he didn't ask for, and a life he didn't recognize anymore. But one thing stayed the same. He worked hard, very hard. He paid attention, learned quickly, did more than expected. Before long, people noticed. Joseph became that employee, the one who solves problems, the one you trust with responsibility, the one who somehow makes everything run smoother, the famous "just give it to him, he'll handle it" guy. And for the first time in a long while, things started to improve. He was trusted, he was promoted, he was respected. His life began to stabilize. From the outside, it looked like a comeback story. From the inside, it felt like relief. Maybe the worst was over. Then came the reversal, a false accusation, a story he didn't get to tell his side of. A decision already made without him in the room. Joseph was arrested. No hearing, no explanation, no chance to defend himself. All his progress vanished overnight. It was modern cancellation, ancient addition, one accusation, immediate consequences, total loss of status. From trusted manager to prisoner in a single scene cut. And once again, Joseph found himself starting over, this time in prison. But even there, something strange happened. Joseph adapted, again. He worked. He observed. He helped. Before long, he stood out. Even in prison, he became useful, reliable, respected. And then came the dreams. Other people's dreams. Joseph interpreted them, clearly, accurately. He helped fellow prisoners understand their futures. Some received good news, some didn't. Either way, Joseph was right. This should have been his moment. Connections made, names remembered, doors opened. Instead, something else happened. Nothing. The people he helped left. They returned to their lives. And they forgot him. No messages, no recommendations, no follow-up. Networking failed. Joseph stayed behind. Days passed, then months, then years. He waited and waited. This part of the story is quiet. No action scenes, no dramatic speeches. Just time moving forward while nothing changes. Joseph had done everything right, worked hard, stayed honest, helped others. And still, he was stuck, forgotten. But this forgotten stage is important. Because sometimes the turning point doesn't come during success or during failure. Sometimes it comes during silence. And it's exactly there, in the forgetting, that the story shifts again. Sometimes opportunity shows up, much later than expected. Far away from Joseph's prison cell, Pharaoh started having dreams. Strange ones. Not confusing in a vague way, disturbing in a very specific way. He woke up unsettled, replayed them, couldn't shake them. So he did what powerful people do when something feels wrong. He asked everyone, advisors, officials, experts. No one had an answer. The room filled with guesses, theories, and confident nonsense. Nothing worked. And then, in the middle of that frustration, someone remembered something. Or rather, someone. A former prisoner. A man who interpreted dreams. A man who had been accurate. The realization came late. Very late. In modern terms, it was like calling the one person who could fix the system, after ignoring their emails for years. Joseph was summoned. No warning, no preparation. Straight from prison to the palace. One moment, he was a forgotten inmate. The next, he was standing in front of Pharaoh. Pharaoh explained the dreams. Joseph listened, carefully. Then he did what he always did. He interpreted them, calmly, clearly, without panic. The dreams weren't random. They were a warning. Years of abundance were coming, followed by years of severe famine. And Joseph didn't stop at interpretation. He proposed a plan: store food, prepare early, organize resources. Simple, logical, effective. Pharaoh didn't hesitate, because when someone solves your biggest problem in 5 minutes, you don't overthink it. Joseph was promoted, immediately, from prisoner to government authority in a single decision. Power, responsibility, access. It was a promotion with no onboarding process. A lightning promotion. The irony was impossible to miss. The same man who had been forgotten in prison was now responsible for preparing an entire nation for disaster. The same man who had no control over his own future was now shaping everyone else's. Joseph was given authority, resources, a new identity. And just like that, everything changed. But not everything stayed in the past. Because while Joseph was busy managing the future, the past was still waiting. And that's when it started coming back to collect. The story of Joseph is not about fast success, it's about time. Looking back, the pattern becomes clear. He started as the favorite son. Then he was betrayed. Then forgotten. And finally, elevated to power. Not in that order by choice, not by strategy, not by planning, just by time. Joseph didn't skip steps. He didn't jump stages. He didn't unlock shortcuts. Every phase took longer than expected. Favoritism created tension. Tension led to betrayal. Betrayal led to isolation. Isolation turned into preparation, and none of it looked useful while it was happening. From the outside, Joseph's life didn't look like progress. It looked like delay after delay after delay. But here's the thing. Not every delay is failure, and not every injustice is the end. Sometimes delay is training that doesn't announce itself. Joseph learned leadership before he had authority. He learned responsibility before he had power. He learned patience before he had options. By the time he reached the top, he wasn't improvising. He was ready. In modern terms, it's like being prepared in silence for something that only makes sense years later. The kind of preparation you don't post about. The kind that doesn't look impressive in real time. Joseph didn't know where his story was going. He only knew what was happening now, and what was happening now often felt unfair. But when the moment finally arrived, it arrived all at once. Because long timelines tend to do that, they look empty, until suddenly they make sense. This is why the story still works today, because life doesn't usually resolve itself on schedule. Effort doesn't always get instant results, and doing the right thing doesn't guarantee quick rewards. Joseph's story isn't motivational in a flashy way. It's realistic. It says, sometimes you won't be recognized. Sometimes you'll be forgotten. Sometimes your skills will matter later than you hoped. But later doesn't mean never. And meaning often shows up after patience has been exhausted. That's the quiet lesson. Not everything happens fast. Not everything works out immediately. But some things only work out with time. And Joseph's story ends not with applause, but with perspective. So now the question is simple. Which story should be simplified next? Esther, Daniel, or Abraham?